Hey everybody, welcome back to our channel. My name is Juan, and this is the place where we are all artists. So for this painting, we'll use yellow, white, red, and black. And I have some brushes here. I have a number 6, very small flat, and a couple of detail brushes for the small details. So I washed my detail brush here, one of them. I dry it really well, make sure that it's not dripping at all. And now I'm going to use some black paint. And this is going to be to simply outline where the eyes are going to be. So I'm going to try to position it like a little bit above the center from the bottom up. And all I am doing is basically just drawing 2 eye shapes. And while I do that, I wanted to persuade you to subscribe to the channel and also watch all of our tutorials, watch all of our horror tutorials. I keep making them because I remember all the films that me and my siblings, we grew up watching, and we just had such a blast. And now I get to paint to them. You know, I get to paint to my fears. So it's a lot of fun making these videos. Please join me in painting. And if you can, share how your paintings come out. And back to the painting here, what I'm doing is simply adding black underneath the eyes. This is all going to come together in a very short time, actually. You'll see what I'm doing, like why we're doing this, hopefully why you're doing it if you're painting with us. But you know what? I appreciate everyone who's here, even everyone who's not painting with me, just for taking the time to watch, you know, a painting being created, you know, watch colors being used to create an image in honor of a pretty good film. I mean, it's really, really good. Like, this is actually, this image might be from It Chapter 2, one of the promotional posters. But still, the as a whole, including both films, it holds a lot of weight, you know, and it's one of the better Stephen King adaptations, I would say, the 2 films together. Of course, the first one is amazing, in my opinion, by itself. The second one, you know, definitely added some good things. But enough from me on the topic. I want to hear from you. What do you think? What is the best Stephen King adaptation, in your opinion, as far as films go, or miniseries, or anything? Also, what painting from Stephen King inspired works or movies or novels do you think I could paint to in the future? So very important to wash the brush, get all the paint out of it by hitting the cup over and over again. And then just as important it is to dry the brush so that nothing drips. Okay, so now on to that nice scarlet red color, or whatever red you have. I'm using it simply to add lines that are very similar to the black lines I just added to all around the eyes. But this is mostly pretty much under the eyes, I should say. And this is to start making it look menacing, right? Start making it look like, you know, blood will be spilled. I mean, of course, right? If it's a Stephen King story. Okay, and now onto my number 6 flat brush. This brush is bigger than the detail brushes and it covers more ground. So now let's start with the nose. Start off by marking where the 2 sides of the nose, the nostrils, will be. Then we connect it. And you'll see, this is actually very, very simple. And now we're going to paint that demonic grin that Bill Skarsgård knows so well how to make look unsettling. So first I mark where the middle is, and then where it will end, like the sides, the length of the grin. Then I connect it. Oh, and I wanted to actually know, I wanted your suggestions as to what Stephen King works I should paint to in the future, or in the near future, because I wanted to make a whole like catalog on Stephen King inspired art. He's such a great mind. I mean, when it comes to horror, when it comes to writing, I mean, one of the best ever, right? And You know, so far we've done paintings. I've done paintings on The Shining, Carrie, and Christine. Now this is it. So now it, right? And but I wanted to do others. I was thinking Cujo. I was thinking also what else? Misery somehow. So please feel free to drop a suggestion. And while you drop a suggestion, I'm gonna actually show how to make the lines that attach from his mouth all the way through his eye and above it. So the reason why it's curved like this is so that we could acknowledge that he has cheeks. So we could acknowledge like the shape of his face, of a person smiling, and how their face would make the cheeks look. That's why it has that curve. Okay, so after this, we're gonna move on to yellow, and I'm gonna move back down to one of my detail brushes. It's not the tiniest of detail brushes, but it's definitely small. It's the one I used before. So I wash it and dry it really well, and I'm gonna take some yellow and I'm gonna make the irises first. And we all know that, or if you don't know, in the movie It 2017 and the sequel of 2019, It Chapter 2, Pennywise, his eyes have this, he has a certain thing about him. He has exotropia, where the irises, the eyes, they turn outward. So it's a little bit too much paint here. I'm gonna scrape off some of this and wipe it off in a paper towel. Yeah, I don't want too much build up there. So what I'm gonna do now is wash my brush, the bigger of the brushes that I've been using. It's still pretty small. It's a number 6 flat brush. I'm gonna wash that, dry it really, really well. And I'm going to now move on to using the brush that I dried, because it's still a little tiny bit damp, right? And use that damp brush to try to pull some of this black paint here. Try to pull some of it by rubbing it like this outward to make shadows. If you've seen my videos before, I've used this technique many times to try to blur, or to, in this case, make shadows using the paint that's already on the canvas. I'm gonna go ahead and use it a little bit here in the eye, actually, in the inside of the eye too. I'm gonna do the same thing with this red paint, and just very slightly try to bring a little bit of that red paint, which is mixing with the black paint, to make darkness in there, just to give it more realism. I'm gonna use this trick, this technique a lot in this painting, as you'll see, but it's none of it will be very challenging, because it's actually a very simple painting. So you see I used it to create a little bit of a line above the eyes, and you'll see me using that technique throughout the painting. We're actually very far ahead, actually. So now I'm going to move on to the tiny detail brush, my smallest detail brush, whatever you could get your hands on. And I'm going to make the pupils. So what are your guys' thoughts on Pennywise, like as far as who played him? Who's your favorite that played him? Bill Skarsgård or Tim Curry? I thought that they both have such qualities. Tim Curry, of course, is I mean, for people my age, is like just one of our nightmares. Him as Pennywise, you know. Whereas Bill Skarsgård is much cooler, and more hip, and more just much more modern, of course. So as you can see here, I'm using that tiny detail brush for a different thing. I'm making an outline, around the yellow irises. And I didn't want to forget to mention just this film, well, It Chapter 1, 2017, the director, Andreas Muccieri, he took the story and made it his own, and made it so vibrant and scary at the same time, and he had a terrific cast. So this red that I'm adding right here and all throughout the red areas that I painted already, is a dark red. And it's simply red with some black paint in it that makes it darker. And it's so that there can be shadow here and there. It'll look more realistic again. I love shadows. Adding shadow. I love adding light. You'll see. Adding shadow and adding light strategically and well placed really brings your paintings to life. They really start to come together and you're like, wow, this looks so good. This looks, I can't believe I did this. So I hope that while you're painting and adding shadow and light, or shadow right now and then light in a little bit, that you really start to appreciate how what you're doing is starting to come together and it's starting to take shape into what you wanted it to be, or maybe something that's going to surprise you. Okay, so a very easy step. Let's take some of that dark red. Let's have some blood dripping from Pennywise's mouth. Let's have some blood dripping on this side, just lines basically that come up and down. Thin at first, then you can make them a little thicker. Okay, so let's make the teeth. So let's mix white and a little bit of yellow. Let's mix it with a tiny little brush. I'm gonna use my detail brush. And let's start to make the teeth. So let's start off small, okay? Start off very small. And they're actually very easy because they're round at the bottom. They have round bottoms. So I made the first two front teeth, then I start adding two more on each side of those front teeth. So altogether, three on each side. Now these are too small, so I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. I'm gonna just work on what I have here and add to them. Even if they go over each other, then I continue it. So now they might be a little bit hard to see, right? Because it's so bright. So now we make an even darker red. This is very dark, like almost black. And this is gonna really make the teeth really visible. It's gonna make them very visible because then they're gonna have a background finally. So first I outline them and then I paint behind them. Okay, I'm gonna add a little gap in here very carefully. Okay, so here is the technique again. I rub, this time without wiping the brush or anything. I just use the paint that's there, and I spread the paint down into the mouth, like the lip, and it adds shadow. It makes it look more cavernous, right? It's a mouth. It's a hole, right? So there should be shadow in there a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna add light to his face here and there, on the nose, a little bit on the lip, and this is simply the tiny little detail brush and dabs of white paint. Okay, so using one of the detail brushes, either it doesn't matter really which one I use. I'm gonna make a mixture of yellow and a little bit of red to make like an orange color. And I'm gonna use this to add shadow to the eye as well, so that it won't be so flat. So it'll be more spherical. I do it on both eyes. Pretty simple. But this is not going to be it though. There's still a little bit more with the eye that I want us to do. But in the meantime, while I let that dry a little bit, I do the same thing with the teeth. Just a tiny bit here and there to kind of like to outline them a little bit or just add hints of shadow. I think it's better just to do it instead of trying to explain it. So now with the tiny little detail brush, I washed it and I dried it, and I am gonna use it to do the technique again, which is just to kind of spread the paint that's already on the canvas. You see, the thing is the paint on the canvas is not fully 100% dry. That's why it's able to be kind of like pulled into other areas, and it's a great technique. It's a really great technique. So I'm using it right now to pull some of that black on from the iris, the outline of the iris into the eye, and it makes for great shadow. Okay, so one more thing. So I'm gonna use white with the detail brush. I washed it. I washed it and dried it. So I have white, and I'm adding it just a tiny bit to the eye. And this is me and my obsession with just making things look more defined, having more, like of a shape. So all it is just white, a little bit of white on the eyes and on the teeth. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching with me. Thank you so much for painting with me. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that you love your own paintings. And I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell as well. Also, check out etherealartsstudio.com.